welcome all of you to this 13th lecture of Kutch 40th anniversary celebration. We continue to do that till the end of the year. The first one was launched in April last year by Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the WTO. And one of the best compliments we ever received from anyone was the fact is that we've been here for 40 years, which itself is an evidence of our capabilities, that we are still alive and still teaching. We continue to work hard. When we started in 1983, it was out of a garage, and we never thought that we would ever reach Geneva or Washington or Iran situated as well. Now, we got into international trade in the year 1991 when the Uruguay round was its peak. And as a consequence of that, or I should say as a result of that, we've been working on a very large number of international economic issues, particularly competition, investment, and trade. And in the course of that work that we met Martin, and he was very happy to have met us and seen that we hold a very positive attitude towards free trade, but with safety nets. That has been our argument or motto, liberalization yes, but with safety nets. And one of the reasons why we also had the privilege of working with Montek in his long career as member of the Planning Commission and subsequently as the Deputy Chairman. Vice Chairman. Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission. So another very dear friend, who has been a co-conspirator in many of our work, many of our projects, including one of our admirers, and I'm so happy that you were moderating and chairing this particular session. Sandeep Sanyala, I would like to also welcome wholeheartedly. We are waiting for Neelkant Mishra, who is held up somewhere and should be here any time now. Since Montek has to leave for some reasons, I would request Suman to please take over from here.
Firstly, it's wonderful to be amongst old friends and perhaps newer friends when Neelkant joins, but equally to be in an audience that has so many friends. So I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you for giving me the honor of moderating a discussion with people who I've learned from, and in some ways consider myself, at least in Montek's case, consider a mentor here today. Now, just since I'm already in the role of moderator, let me just sketch what the order of business will be. I have been assigned 7 minutes, and one of the biggest perils of having a moderator speak is that there's nobody to cut him off. So cut me off at 8:12, precisely so I don't get blamed for Montek not being able to leave on time, because the main event is the lecture by Martin, and the topic is what would it take for India to become a developed country by 2047. And I'd just like to make a few prefatory comments to frame this, if you like, from within the perspective of Niti Aayog, and also drawing upon my own background as DG NCAR and as a development economist. I think the first point to start, or a point where we could start, is that Land Pritchard, who was in town, had a famous paper with Larry Summers, where he talked about regression to the mean, which is that lots of developing countries have a growth spurt, but then it peters out. And I do think before we look to the future, we should remind ourselves that India, according to the numbers that are generally accepted, has enjoyed 6% growth over 3 decades, up or down. Now, there are 2 points I want to make on that, which is that when we are talking about the future to 2047, or the past going back to 1991, we are talking about what economists call potential growth or supply side growth. And that's much of what the discussion, I think, is going to be. And I'm saying that because you would all know, as readers of the newspapers, that we are already at 7% growth, we had 8% growth. I just want to say that the long run is quite different from the short run, because the short run is influenced by demand side fluctuations, the global economy. What we're looking at is what it takes to maintain this over a long run. And I would make 2 points in that regard. One is that the Europeans, particularly the French, have this phrase, le Trente Glorieuses, the glorious 30 years, which led to the reconstruction of Europe after the war, the Marshall Plan, etc. So, you could argue that India has already had its Trente Glorieuses. And now the challenge is to keep that show going in a different world for another 30 years. And what we know is that that is hard, possibly unprecedented. Not unprecedented, and China, but it's rare. And so the discussion is really how, in a different economy and a different world, to at least equal the 6% that we've enjoyed up till now. And I'm not talking about per capita because population trends have been changing, but and then what it takes to get beyond 6%. Now, the next point is, does it matter how you measure what it means to be a developed economy by 2047? And there are various alternatives. Many of you would have seen the figure of $30 billion by 2047. That's a number that has gone out. It's complicated because dollars don't stay the same. But I think there's a general consensus, not only at HITI, but also in this excellent issue, The Economist, sorry about it, and also Goldman Sachs, that what we're talking about is a percent or a percentage point and a half point increase above the 6% that you seem to have had the institutions to deliver to something like 7.5. Martin will give you his point of view on that, and maybe in the Q&A I will query or provide an additional gloss on that. I will just make 3 final points. First, some of you may have heard this phrase about a middle income trap. I do want you to know that where India at the moment, in the classification by the World Bank, is we are still a lower middle income country. It will take us a while to become an upper middle income country. Hopefully we will achieve that by 2030. And after that is the heavy lifting as an upper middle income country to reach developed or advanced country status. I'm saying this because an operative time horizon, and certainly for this government, just recently, this parliament I should say, is the period to 2030, maybe the period to 2035, and then it all starts to become a bit more speculative. And the fact that I, was at Shell and worked on scenarios means that the degree of uncertainty rises. And then you've got to think about issues like resilience, technological change, etc. So I just wanted to say that it's not continuous from 2024 to 2047. We need to be thinking of it in stages. My final 2 points would be that why has Prime Minister called this Amrit Kal? He's called it Amrit Kal because, as happened in East Asia in the 70s and 80s, this is the era of our demographic dividend. It's complicated by the scale, and the diversity of India. But just to say that if there was a golden moment, or golden couple of decades it's now, and my final point would be scale. The paradox is that India does so many things at scale. You know, if you talk about the elections, or if you talk about rationing, but the one thing we don't seem to be able to do is scale up our manufacturing. And I think as we really need to hear, and I do think that it's very important that Prime Minister put Viksit Bharat out there to stimulate a debate. He thinks much more of what comes to him from everybody. He thinks of it as a Jan Andolan rather than coming from me. And so the question of what it would take to, as it were, make us succeed in the game of scale, I think, is a core issue that I hope our discussants will help us all address. With that, Mark.
One little house announcement, I know it may be redundant, but if you could please keep your mobile phone silent. Secondly, I wanted to also share with you, I forgot, Martin have also delivered the 30th anniversary lecture of Christ in London. So it's a very old association.